Art students, Brian Proctor, the art teacher, back again. And this is a new year, so I've decided to start a whole new lesson. Now, this is going to be geared for those people who, number one, want to do comics, and number two, have not really started comics, kind of those who don't know what they want to do. So I'm taking this back all the way to the beginning. So we're going to start from the beginning and we're going to work up. We're going to work our way up until we have that book in our hand, but we're going to move really quickly on this one. And the reason I'm doing this is because YouTube will only allow you to have so many videos up at one time. So every time I put a video up, the one at the very end goes away. And it's getting close to taking the one that I had done for creating your own comics from start to finish. It's getting close for that one to disappear. And it's going to disappear one day because I don't know the positions that they're in, so they disappear. So I'm starting this new for 2020. And for all you people who are just joining me today, welcome, and we're going to go through this, and I'm going to answer pretty much every question you have on doing comics, and we're going to go step by step doing the comic together. So, and feel free to email me at any time if you have any questions. I'm available for you guys. So, the first few ones are more, what do you call those? Kind of like lectures, you know. I always believe that knowledge is 70% and skill is 30%, because you can have all the knowledge in the world of how to drive, and I give you a car and you not know how to start it. So yeah, this is important, okay? It's very important. If you don't know the lyrics to the song, you can't sing the song. So this is important. Stay with this. Listen to this information, and it will help you in the long run. So without me going any further or rambling or anything, let's just go right to the drawing table and get started. You will not regret this. If you want to do a comic book, you're going to have one up soon. Let's go. All right, so if you are new to the channel, welcome. My name is Brian Proctor, and it's my real name. I use that because artists want to let people know who they are. So that's why I don't use some made up name, because yeah, it's part of advertising. And if you're an artist, you should use your real name too, to let people know that, or who you are. And now I am 58 years old. That's right, 58 years old. You're never too old to start. I have a lot of email from people that are old, and they're like, oh, I'm too old. No, you are never too old to start. As long as you have that fire in your heart, you are never too old to start. So I have done a number of comics, and this is basically my introduction to who I am, so that you guys can say, oh, I guess this guy is worthy of teaching me. I've done a number of comics, number of drawings through my lifetime, and I'll just show you a couple things just to show you that, you know, I can do this. So here we go. Let's do this first comic. It's one of my first comics, and this is the next soldier. This is this guy right here, along with the guy you just saw. Sketchbook. Some of this is going to fall off the table. Samurai Clown, which is my flagship comic book. Not now. I've done all these by myself, other than doing the lettering, the internal dialogue lettering. Everything else is done by myself. Samurai Clown, Samurai Clown, Samurai Clown, Samurai Clown. I said this is the flagship, and I have the next soldier and this guy here coming out. So, and another comic book. So I'm doing like 4 comics by myself, which is like unheard of. This is sketchbook. Sketchbook. I would suggest you go out and buy this if you're trying to do anatomy. Female. This is the other sketchbook. Sketchbook. This is kind of more of a male. Action. This is more dedicated to the male and to the positions. There are a couple female positions in there. Move aside. We got the newest book, my 360 pose book, and these are positions. You take one position and you turn them around so that you'll know how to do these positions from different angles. And also it has my YouTube pictures in there from what I was doing on YouTube, teaching on YouTube, my teachings. Children's book. I tell people to take their abilities and use it and make as much money, get your name out there as much as you can. Another children's book. If you can draw, then you can do a lot of things, and I talk about that in one of my videos. Another children's book. This is my first children's book, and this is the only book that I did not draw because it took me so long. I ended up giving it to another artist. I did the cover and colored the cover, but I gave it to another artist to finish because it was taking me so long. And this is another children's book. This is a very old children's book. This was done in watercolor for a friend of mine. So yeah, I have done a lot of stuff. So I think that I might be qualified to teach a few people. So now that you know a little bit about me, let's get into doing comics. Because before I started how to draw comics, but I just kept jumping from one project to another project because I have so many ideas running through my head. So I said I'm going to do this comic book thing so that if you're trying to do a comic book, you'll know everything that I know, my triumphs and failures and what to do and what not to do. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to color this guy while I talk, because the first part of this is going to be about information. So I always believe that information is 70%, or knowledge is 70%, and skill is 30%. So that makes up that 100%. So the first thing you need is a story. Now before, if you had asked me which is more important, the character or the story, I would have said the character, but thinking about it, it's the story. You know, anybody could have came from, that was my lamp falling, don't worry about it. Anybody could have came from the planet Krypton and had superpowers, you know, and the way the writers are doing it, everybody a whole school bus came from planet Krypton. So you could throw anybody, could have took the place of Superman, but the story would have still been the same. The planet blew up and somebody came to Earth as a baby and, you know, got superpowers. So I'm thinking the story is more important now. You have to have your story. That is a must. You have to have your 5 W's. And hopefully, if I'm doing this right, the 5 W's will come across there. And the 5 W's are who, what, where, when, and why. And this is for people that are just starting to write. You need to know these things. And so the who is your character? Who is the character? My character is John. Okay, that's my character, John. What is what is the character? What's happening? What's going on? So John is a detective. Let's just say that John is a detective. Where is this happening? It's happening on planet Earth, in New York, in a back alley. When is happening? And when is it happening? It is 1970, 2 a.m. on Thursday. When? And why is it happening? Why is it happening? So it is happening because John woke up because he heard some noise in his alley below his window, and he saw some animals fighting a puppy. And so he went down there and he saved the puppy, because when he was young, he always wanted a puppy and his parents would not allow him to have a puppy. So that's why it's happening. So once you answer those 5 W questions, your story is pretty much complete. So in writing your story, you have to have your beginning, your middle, and your end. Now, a lot of people have said to me before when writing stories, I have no idea how it's going to end. But you should already know the beginning of your story. If you have an idea, you know the beginning of your story, because that just comes first. And if you know the end of your story, the middle will come. Just work on the end and kind of go backwards. If your character dies at the end, then how did he die? Or what was the causes of him dying? What started him dying? Then that would be the middle of your book. You know, he was born. He lived his life. Something happened that caused him a slow death. And now when he found out he was going to die, that's your middle part of your story. Now, he or her could be trying to find a cure for what's going to kill him. But in the end, they don't find a cure and he dies. End of your story. So if you do the beginning and the end, the middle will come. So don't sweat that. It'll show up. Now, one of the things that you need is a good story. You know, Hollywood has run out of stories. That's why they're getting into comic books now. Everything is like comic books, mutants and superheroes, because they've done so many soldier stories and cop stories and detective stories that they just basically ran out. So this is a great time, if you are a comic book writer or a comic book artist, to get your stories out and notice, because as I said, Hollywood is running out, but you have to have a really good story that kind of stands out. You just can't have something lame like, oh, he was hit by lightning and suddenly he has lightning powers. And, you know, one of the things I always say is, why do you wake up in the morning to go to work? Why do you wake up in the morning to go to work? Because you need money to pay your bills? Probably. Now, if you had, so that's my sole purpose of getting up. I need money to pay my bills. I have a car note. I have to pay my electricity, water, all that stuff. You know, I have to buy clothes for the kids, blah, blah, blah. So if I hit the lottery for $100 million tax-free now, I have to pay no taxes on $100 million ever, would I get up and go to work? No, I would not, because I have what I'm going to work for. I have that money. So if I get hit by lightning and suddenly I have lightning powers, I can, whatever, fly, shoot lightning through my fingers, whatever. You know, I could be a hero. Why would I do that? Now, I might go and do that a couple times, you know, oh, it's hero, hero, hero. So here it is. It's raining. It's cold. It's like 2 o'clock in the morning. I hear a siren going off. I'm in bed. I was getting some good sleep. So I'm going to jump up, put on my superhero costume, and go out in the cold and the rain to try to fight or help whoever may be in trouble? Probably not, because there's no real reason for you to keep going. You know, if you look at some of these superheroes, why do they keep fighting? Because somebody died, but they died like 50 years ago. So why are you still fighting for somebody that died 50 years ago? So a lot of these stories really makes no sense for them to keep going. So you have to come up with not only a good story, but a good reason for your character to do what he does over and over and over and over, or people will be like, you know, that's kind of lame. You know, and the thing is, one, you're doing comics because you want to tell a story. You want to tell a good story, and you want to show off your skills. Now, I was going to do a video on why do you want to make a comic book? I still might, but that's later, because I decided to do this video series on creating a comic book or making a comic book. Now, once you have your story, you have to have, as I said, you have to have your locations, you have to have your time, then you have to figure out your backgrounds. Is this person in New York in the back alley? Okay, well, what does New York look like in 1970? I'm sure it hadn't changed since then, but too much anyway. What back alley? What does that back alley look like? What does this guy's apartment look like? You have to do the research to bring your story to life. Now, realistically, doing comic books is not easy. It is a job. It is like a second job, and it's fun. But as I say, it is a second job, because when you come home from your first job, or when you come home from school, and you have to pick up that paper and start drawing or try to create, and your brain is tired, most likely you'll be like, no, I'm too tired right now. I'll do it later. But that'll never get your book out, because I think my first book took me, what was it? I was in 2000. I want to say maybe like 5 or 6 years to complete it, because life gets in the way, and life will continue to get in the way. Let me cut my heater off, because it's cold in this room. That's what that noise was. But as I said, life gets in the way, especially if you have a family, you know, a wife, somebody that's needy. You have to take the dogs out. You have to go to, the school PTA meeting, or your kids are sick, or your wife needs you to stop and get some groceries, or she just wants to spend time with you, or he just wants to spend time with you. He doesn't want you at that drawing table anymore, because you go to that drawing table every day. Come spend time with your family. Let's go out this weekend. Let's do this. Let's do that. So life gets in the way. So it is not easy to do that. But if you were going to work, your wife wouldn't say, oh, you stay home from work today, because that's how you get paid. You know, stay home from work, call in sick. You couldn't do that. So it's the same thing with doing comics. You might not be getting paid by another person yet, but you have to produce in order to get paid. So think about that. Now, before you decide to say, oh, I'm going to do a comic book, no matter what, it's a job. It is a job, put it that way. I'm not even going to say it's fun. I'm not going to say it's this or that. Let's just start out by saying it's a second job. You do a comic book, you're working a second job, okay? Now, your pay depends on how much time you put into your second job. All right, so now as far as story, if you're going to do this, if this is your first time, you have to think about this. Am I coming to this from the standpoint of an artist? I can draw, and I can write, and I can ink, and I can do perspective, all that. So if you have all those skills, then you're good. You are good to go. Keep going. But if you don't have those skills, you have to figure out who can help me. Who do I need to help me? Now, if you have a baby, you're going to love that baby. No matter how ugly that baby is, you're going to love that baby. You're going to think it's the most beautiful thing. And you're going to eventually maybe ask somebody one day, hey, can you watch my baby for the weekend? Because, me and my husband, we want to go out. We haven't been out in a while. Okay, yeah, sure, I'll watch the baby overnight or for the weekend. But then after that weekend's over, come get your baby, But when you say something like, oh, can you go get the baby some Pampers? Can you get it some milk? Can you do this? Can you take it to the doctor? It's like, hey, this is not my baby. I'm sorry. Come get your baby. So it's the same way with drawing your book. Nobody's going to love your baby like you. So in the beginning, be prepared to do it all by yourself. If you really don't know how to do some things, you have to learn them. Now, when your baby gets older and becomes a beautiful singing star or something, then everybody wants to be, can I get an autograph? Oh, I just want to take pictures with your child, So if your book takes off, then you don't have to worry about people not wanting to help. Everybody's going to want to jump in on it. If somebody said, say like Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, were coming out with a new book, a new thing, and a new series, books. And they put advertisement out for artists. Oh, they have so many artists, wanting to jump on that thing, especially if they're going to get paid well. So that's the same thing with your story. You're going to have to do that. You're going to have to do it all by yourself in the beginning. Learn what you need to know. My channel is here to teach you. There are other channels out there that will help you as well. That's nice of you, Brian, to talk about other people's channels. But yeah, that is kind of like my goal in life is to one, I want my stories to be out there. I want people to recognize my characters, my skill, my drawing, so that when I'm gone, they're like, oh, that's Brian Proctor. Oh, I want my characters to be like Batman, just continue after I'm gone. And two, I want to be able to help somebody. I want somebody to be able to say when they make it, oh, Brian Proctor taught me how to draw. So that would be like my legacy. Oh, Brian Proctor was this great artist. He taught me everything I knew. So that, I might not be here, but the things that I taught will still be here. So that is my goal, and that is why I'm doing this on YouTube. Okay, more into the story, and I don't want to drag this on because usually my videos are long. How long is your story going to be? If you want to make a comic book, how long is your story going to be? As in, how many books will it take to tell your story? Are you trying to do 1,000 books because you think your story is so good that you could make money? I would say no more than 5 books. In the beginning, nobody knows you, nobody knows your story, nobody knows your characters. I would say write it to where you have about 5 books, the most. 3 to 5. Well, 3 is not a lot. 5, 5 will catch them and hold them for a while. So, but don't go beyond that, because if you try to just stretch your story out, somewhere along the line, you get tired. You will get tired. Every artist gets tired. Your brain gets tired of trying to think of new things and new angles and new positions. And you might even come up with another story, which is one thing that I have always done. I've always continually come up with new stories. So I've been jumping around like a grasshopper, which is not good. You have to stick with one thing and then continue with that one thing. It's like having like 3 children. So every time you have a child, you forget about the one that was just born, the one that was born earlier, and you put all your time and energy into the new one. So you have to stick with it. So find out how many books one story has, or one story will take to complete. And if your books sell well, then you can continue to add more books to it, or just re-add another story going onto your book. Or if it becomes popular, then there'll be other people banging on your door to help them, and then you can allow them to, somebody that you see that has good skill to help you to write or draw your book, and you can work on another story, or you can just keep going with that particular story that you have, which is now popular. All right, let's go on to characters now. Characters. You have your story. Let's say you have your story. Now we'll get a little deeper into story later as we go, or a little bit touch on it a little bit more as we go. But only you have the story idea in your mind, so only you can bring it to life. But if you're doing a story, you're going to have character or characters with that story. So I would say the best thing about to do a character is do an original character. Try to give an original character. Now, I know all the powers have been used up. If you're doing a comic book story or superhero story, there are not too many powers. You might stumble onto one, if your brain just works overtime, or have a power that nobody really uses. But all the powers are pretty much used up. So, but you still want to be able to come up with an original character. You can't just draw something that has a nice costume and then the person is lame. You have to have the total package. I was gonna say something there. It jumped out of my head. It was like really, really good too. Whatever you give, the best character has the greatest weakness. Put it that way. Like Superman. Superman is like all powerful now. We're not talking about the old Superman. We're talking about the new Superman that they continue to write new powers in. He's just all powerful, too powerful. So who can fight, Superman? And that's something I said in a number of my videos. It's like, I don't really like the Superman character. It's not that I don't like Superman. I'll never buy a Superman book. But it's the writers. I don't like what they do to him, because they have it to the point where Superman does not need to breathe to live. He does not need to eat, or he does not need to drink. He's basically a god. He can go live in the sun for years. You can't breathe in space. So it's like too powerful. So what they have to do is bring his powers down, because if he's in one book, he's flying to the sun, the next book he's getting burned by somebody's, whatever, lightsaber. It's like, how, did you not forget that last issue the guy was in the sun for like 6 months? So that's the bad thing about that. So if you come up with a power, make that power not so great. Make it so that the guy has to, one, learn to use it, and it becomes a hindrance. That's one reason Spider-Man was so popular. Spider-Man was popular because it was this kid who had this, he had all these problems at first. And then he had this ability. But this ability did nothing but cause him more problems as well. So it was like he was torn between becoming this Spider-Man or being, this teenager who just wanted to have friends and wanted to graduate and was dealing with, family issues because his power got his uncle killed. So he had all these problems. And that's the one thing that people identified with, that, oh man, this guy's got all these problems. Even though he has this ability, he still has these problems. That's like if you are going through a divorce and your kids are sick and you have a disease, but yet you win the lottery. Oh, you win the lottery, $100 million. Your kids are still sick. You have a disease and you're still going through a divorce. So it really doesn't really help. It just kind of like makes it a little worse, especially when your wife is like trying to get your money from you. Now she wants you to die so she can get it all from you. She wants to get half right now for the divorce. She wants you to die so she can get it all. And, she's out there spending money like crazy. So, yeah, it's just powers do not make things better. So if you have a story where a guy has powers and the powers are a hindrance, then you have a better chance of your book taking off, being better, because now we can identify with the story. Another thing is if you have multiple characters. If you have multiple characters, and let me show you this. This is another book that I'm working on. How many books are you working on, Brian? Too many books. So this is the Animal Core. This is my newest book that I'm going to get out. I'm still developing it. But these are the characters that I have to, that I'm doing. So for each character, they have to have a separate personality. So that's something else you have to work on. For every character you have to have a personality to go with that person. You know, is one person a coward? Is one person, crazy? Is one person smart? Is one person this or that? So you as the creator, you as the mother or father that give birth to that child, you have to know everything about that character. You have to know their favorite color, their favorite food. Now, it may never come out in the book, but you need to know this stuff so that you can develop that character a little better. Like, oh, he's allergic to peanuts. Something that never comes out, but one day he's eating, something, and then he starts to swell up. And it's like, oh, I'm allergic to peanuts. Your people, your readers never knew that up until that point. But that means now, because that guy swolled up, is that a word? Swolled? Now he or she cannot go out there and fight the bad guy because she's got that weakness of peanuts. So now that the bad guy knows that, oh, this guy's allergic to peanuts. Now I'm going to have a peanut spray. So whenever he comes in the area, I'm going to spray my peanut spray gun on him and make him swell up or make her swell up. So that's something you have to do. Give thought to that. So I want to end this video in a few seconds because I don't want it to go into 30 minutes because this is just a discussion and this is just me coloring. And until we get into the drawing part, I'll just be finishing up some drawings that I'm too lazy to finish up otherwise. But I want to get into it step by step. So if you decided to do a comic book, you woke up and said, I want to do a comic book, or you saw a movie and said, oh, I can do that. I have a character. When I was young, I had this character in mind. I've always wanted to do that. I'm going to try to cover every step for you guys from the beginning. So we got into your story. If you don't have your story, start thinking about your story. Develop your story. Where is it? When is it? What time is it? And why is this happening? Your character, your characters. Start doing your characters. Name, age. Does he have a family around him? Where does this person live at? What is his weaknesses? What is his strengths or her weaknesses or her strength? Why is he or she getting out the house every day to go out there and fight that? That's a very important thing. Why? If you had millions of dollars, you wouldn't go to work. If I worked at McDonald's and I hit the lottery, I would go there and buy me some fries and a burger, and then I would leave. I wouldn't go to McDonald's anymore. I'd go to Wendy's. So, yeah, with that knowledge, that's your first step in creating your comic book. So I'm going to do these videos more frequently so that you guys can go ahead and start doing your comics. If you haven't started already, if you've already started, I'm going to cover some things that you might not know about, like better advertising or, panel work, or just a lot of things. I'm going to cover everything that I've learned over the years because I had to do this by myself. I learned to draw by myself. There was nobody to teach me how to do that. I learned to color by myself. So my strengths and weaknesses, I'm going to try to make them yours. Not my weakness, but I'm going to show you what was weak for me so that you can overcome. So, and I do start to ramble because none of my stuff is scripted. I don't sit down and I write this stuff out and then I read it over. This is just, I have these ideas and I say, oh, this would make a good video to teach somebody because my goal is to bless you as much as I can. So after a while, I start to ramble. And when I start to ramble, it's just time to let's just close it up. So if you enjoyed this video, and that's something I really never say on my videos. If you enjoyed this video, give me a thumbs up and hit the notification bell so that when I start making these things more frequently, then you will be able to see the videos. So, all right, that's it for this video. I will see you guys in the next video. And to all you old art students of mine, yeah, hopefully you will learn something as well. See you guys in the next video. I'm out.